I am pleased to find that it is much warmer and larger than it looks. I hope something else is also warmer and larger than it looks, even though I haven't seen it yet. Hello, and welcome to Spell Candle. This is a dark fantasy dating sim, in which you are assigned to be the journalist covering the very famous Dread Festival. And along the way, there are 4 gorgeous love interests for you to romance too. But after disaster strikes, you find yourself and your entire envoy accused of causing the destruction. And as such, you have 7 days to prove your innocence and find the real culprit. Let's get started. How far are you willing to go to contain war in a glass dome? What a sentence. How many parents would you be willing to sacrifice? How many brothers would you kill? Would you grow numb to the pain? Become a zealous leader willing to sacrifice anything for the greater good? Turn a blind eye to the orphans on the street? Ignore those disabled begging for coin? Steal and bribe and extort for a chance at peace? How many decisions would leave you lying awake at night? Counting the souls you sent to the slaughter? Can living in war for a millennia truly be considered life? So pretty. A loud whistle breaks the silence, rendering the carriage to a sudden stop. The tip of my quill shatters as it smashes into the paper before I can put down my next thought on the page. The tip of my quill shatters as it smashes into the paper before I can put down my next thought on the page. Identity control. The shout comes from the outside and I put my notepad down, scoffing at the ruined nib. This was the 3rd one today and I'm tempted to throw my hands up in frustration and scream. I was selected to be the Eurasian delegation's reporter for this year's Dread Festival. It should be considered a great honor to be able to report on your country's political victories no matter how small. But you can't expect a caged bird to sing happily. I reach into my leather satchel to find my identification documents before stepping out of my petite carriage. I feel... curious to finally take a peek outside. Just a few feet ahead, an elven woman is going through the papers of an older gentleman from our contingent. And what role do you fulfill within the delegation? Her voice is like the sharp pointed end of an ancient spear. I am the senator, representing the region of the Beastlands. The elf sniffs the air around the delegate and frowns. She's beautiful. Glimmering mercury eyes peek out from underneath short bangs the color of milky quartz. Her skin, like deep iron ore, glitters gently in the rays of daylight. After a very thorough read of the man's identification documents, she hands them back to him without a word. I find myself nervous as the elf's long knife-like ears twitch and her attention shifts to me. I'd never seen anything like it. Her cold gaze examines me from head to toe before she reaches a hand out. Identification documents. I hand them over as she scans through them quickly. Enter your name here and then press enter. Yinny. Choose your pronouns, she, her. And what role do you fulfill within this delegation? I was selected by the Empire to take an account of the Dread Festival for an article. Her eyebrows raised slightly at my response, accepting my explanation. And your general? Where could I find him? The question perplexes me, though the delegation had been traveling for several weeks. I hadn't encountered the infamous Shadow Master once. Had I? Upon seeing my bewildered expression, the elf offers a small explanation. He was not in his carriage. Perhaps he got bored of being confined in a turbulent box for days. A voice responds before I can open my mouth to formulate an apology. I step back from the carriage and seek out its source. Hehe. This is the one I wanted to romance the most. They're so pretty. Upon the wooden roof of my small carriage, relax one of the most beautiful gentlemen I had ever seen. Yeah, Jesus. Oh my god. I love the angle so much. Oh my. With his eyes closed, his expression was so serene that I found myself wondering if I had misheard him speak. Shadow Master, may day and night preserve you. The man on the roof of my carriage opened his eyes and leveled the woman with a cold gaze. His eyes were the color of the flags of our empire, the color of blood and dangerous forbidden things. Lattimore, oh, gorgeous. I could hear the elven woman swallow from behind me so vividly. I'll also swallow vividly in a couple of moments later once him and I get together, that I wondered if the world around us had fallen quiet on purpose. May I please see your documents, General? A frown crossed his features before he quietly sat up, slid his feet over to the edge of the carriage and jumped down with the grace of a cat. Yeah. You're hot. You're pretty. He pushed a stack of documents that was so thick into the hands of the elf that it made me gape. I'm sure he can make me gape in other ways. Yinny! I mean, who said that? Might take you a few days. He smirked. And I wondered where on himself he kept a pocket large enough to hold all that paper. The elf blinked, scanned through the first few pages and flipped through the next few with shaky hands, her face growing paler by the second. Keep watching him. The political leader of our delegation crosses his arms behind his back, his expression neutral as he scans the surrounding environment. I feel my breath hitch as his gaze passes over me for a split second. The elf suddenly thrusts the pages back at the general and gives him a shaky nod and thank you before wobbling off to the next carriage. Was that necessary? The man's notorious crimson gaze turns to me. She asked for my papers. He shrugged. It wasn't my fault that she wasn't ready for what was on them. Somehow this behavior does little to surprise me. It might have been considerate to let her know beforehand. And why would I do that? His eyebrows rose in challenge and I found myself searching for a response to give him. Because you're the Shadow Master. You think the ever-powerful elven aspects don't know which general is being sent into their city as a peace tribute every year? I blink at his response. That's fair? An uncomfortable silence falls over us. And I notice the way his gaze wanders down my waist, scrutinizing me. Why are you looking at me like that? A frown crosses his lips. I follow his eyes and... crap. The inkwell I had left on the seat beside me must have spilled when the carriage came to a sudden halt. He's staring pointedly at a large black stain on the side of my pants. I hope you're not planning on wearing that to the welcome dinner. I may have been planning on it. I highly suggest not embarrassing yourself or the Empire by doing so. Everything about this man was irritating. Irritatingly hot! I won't. The look he gave me was one of complete apathy. I grit my teeth. A loud high-pitched whistle traveled from the gates ahead of us. Someone is giving us the all clear. The clicking of metallic hinges echo in the air, and I take it as my sign to return to the peace of my small carriage. I hope you have a good day, General. There wasn't a single sincere word in that sentence. He raised a set of eyebrows as I stepped into my carriage. Making sure to avoid the spilled ink, I turned around and shut the door in his face. A childish reaction, but his expression was well worth it. With blood pounding in my ears, as opposed to him pounding in me, which will hopefully happen later, I found a clean place to sit before the carriage resumed its movement shortly after. Entering Omnis, the city of candle wax, the capital city of the elves. I find myself eagerly peeking out through the window, making a continuous effort to forget the fact that I may have just angered one of the most dangerous men on the eastern continent. My eyes wander between the many tall buildings made of marble, adorned with golden embellishment before lingering on the rectangular houses with roofs assembled from the slabs of multicolored quartz. They're illuminated by the withdrawing river of light, the path of the goddess of day. All structures bask in the warm rays, coloring in various shades of brilliant oranges and golds. It's a breathtaking view. We pass under a long archway of stone, upon which I hear the bubbling of running water. Dozens of half-burnt candles of sundry colors and sizes sit atop each visible surface. I find myself itching to see what these streets look like at night. My thoughts quickly bring me back to the journal in my lap. Quickly I fetch a new quill from my bag and note down my initial impressions. After several days of travel, our delegation has finally arrived at Omnis, the legendary elven capital. The gates were guarded strictly, and our official documents and identities were checked for validity. This year, the Great Empire's leading envoy for peace celebrations is the Shadow Master. He sports a unique brand of charm that inspires the awe of everyone around him. Like a hurricane or some other horrible natural disaster, he has a way with words. I'm blessed to be able to experience the elves' exaltation when around him. At least I'm not the only one terrified of this monster. We meander through the roads for another 20 minutes before the carriage comes to a final stop in front of the only building that looks so terribly out of place. Oh my god, gorgeous! The tall rectangular pagoda that serves as the Ares Empire's embassy at Omnis. As I disembark, I spot the general already disappearing past the red curtains. He doesn't spare me a glance. Oppressive prick. I'm given a small but pleasantly furnished room in the embassy, and quickly ditch my pack in there before heading out into the city. I need to find a tailor somehow. I ask around. I follow the trail of the most expensive looking buildings. I tag after the most lavishly dressed elves on the main street. I take a map of the embassy. I tag after the most lavishly dressed elves. A particular female water elf catches my eye. Her dress, a shade of light cream and embroidered with golden floral wreaths, is so elegant that I find myself following her, as if guided by the hand of some spirit of fate. It takes me about 15 minutes of walking and skulking about weird alleyways before I spot a cylindrical structure of rose marble. 2 golden curtains embroidered with large designs of a spool with pink string hung from around its wide open double doors. I love whatever is going on here in the back, with the circle up above. Yeah, the art in this is gorgeous. Dark letters spell out the words, "The Hour of the Golden Ones," right above the entrance of the building. The gentle strum of a mandolin came from inside. Heart-wrenching, intense, soulful, and yet somehow welcoming. I step inside, yet find myself incapable of spotting a single worker. At least not until 3 shadows of varying sizes shift from behind a paravan of curtains. They speak in some language I do not recognize. Wait patiently until I'm noticed. The backgrounds are so pretty. I wait patiently, watching the outlines shift behind the curtains that sway at the mercy of the wind. A customer. The medium shadow queries. Smells like it. The smallest silhouette, short and stubby, moved to face my direction. Its voice high-pitched and snippy. Now's not a good time. I frowned, but I wasn't about to give up that easily. I need an outfit tonight for a party at the Eurasian embassy. Please. I kept my tone polite, but I knew an undertone of desperation had slipped in. I didn't want to see the general's smug expression directed at me tonight. Unless it's in bed. A short silence followed, filled only by the gentle strum of the mandolin. We are very busy, and... A predatory growl erupted from behind the paravan. What? Help her! The command rolled through the chamber with a low rumble. I felt myself tense as the tallest figure turned to face me from behind the curtain. The natural... The growl just grew louder. As you wish, Natural. The tone was reverent, obedient. Language now fully switched to common. The paravan of curtains rustled as a short elf that looked to be within the late years of his lifespan stepped out to help me. Right this way. I was quickly led behind another small paravan. I am Cupio, one of the designers of the Hour of the Golden Ones. And your extra hand to look your best today. Will you be needing help undressing? The question caught me off guard. I refused politely. Thank you for the offer, but I am accustomed to dressing myself. Cupio nods, surprisingly accepting of my choice. Very well then. I will see what we have that will fit your body while you disrobe. Drape yourself in the plush blanket on the davenport if you're feeling bare. And do not be concerned. We change them after each client that refuses to take it home with them. What? Before I could process his words, the elf had made his way outside of my changing area. Yeah, suddenly I've forgotten how to take my pants off. I think Latimore should give me a hand. It didn't take long before several beautiful outfits were brought to me. Cupio made it his mission to look everywhere but at my body as he delivered them and exited. His regard for my wishes put me at ease as I tried on the outfits one by one. Do any of these suit your fancy? A racy blue and white draped dress with a beautiful belt made of pearls. A conservative black cotton toga that sticks to my curves and muscles. A leather two-piece blouse with matching pants accented with gold braces and rings. A ceremonial red and white robe of silk with a black embroidered sash. These all like correspond to the different love interests. I kinda like the blue and white draped dress. But the ceremonial red and white robe of silk as well. I'll go with this one first. This looks like something one of the generals would wear back home when they held their conclaves. Fancy, formal yet not overly conspicuous. The pretty embroidery of the dark sash seemed to tell the myth of the sun mice. An ancient story of how the little man outsmarted the god of shadows. This outfit felt comforting and brought a smile to my lips. A great choice. The tailor appraises the way the item of clothing sits upon my frame. Is the outfit to your liking? Yes. Lovely. Now please, follow me to the lockbox. I nod and exit through the heavy curtains to join the small elf at the pay desk, not expecting the looming figure that pushed past the paravan across from mine. Oh, hi! Wow, this angle is diabolical. What size bra do you wear? Oh, jeez. Wow, water. God. I find myself face to chest with a being unlike any I've ever seen before. A tall cross between man and monster, with a powerful body and a rich skin tone. As I look up at him, his eyebrows jump in surprise before his lips twist into a tameless smile. Seems like I made the correct choice. Excuse me? Getting you dressed. His voice is like a low purr, and I find my cheeks heating as he made a show of admiring my outfit of choice. You're stunning. Oh, thank you. You too. Are they heavy? Would you like some help holding them? Thank you. A large tail swishes back and forth behind him as he tilts his head to one side. Do you make a habit of helping others out? Oh my god, distracting. I am stressed. Holds hands out. May I squeeze? Unfortunately, I don't have the time for such noble work. Lately, the only people I happen to assist are my subordinates by doing the stacks of paperwork on my desk. They've had to change the damn thing 3 times this year already. Are you a public servant of some kind? Pretty much. His bold outfit choice made me assume he was a famed exotic dancer or performer. The thought made my mind travel in a direction that was anything but innocent, so I was almost glad when he changed the topic. Now, to do my job as a public servant by covering your bill. Giving me a little chance to respond, the creature moved to stand in front of the tailor. Thank you, but that is unnecessary. I can pay for myself. I hurriedly stepped even closer to Cupio, who looked between me and the tall man now behind me, uncertainly. Oh my god, I don't know what it is, guys, but the strip of gold going in between the abs is like doing something to me. Driving me crazy. Do you always fight back this hard when someone tries helping you out? Yeah, you wanna see? In a different setting? Like a bed? I know I've given him a weird look when his smile widens, showing off a pair of sharp-topped canines. No? An amused hum leaves his lips and I find myself wondering what it is that he gleaned from this curt line of questioning. This isn't a battle you need to fight. Your purchase is on me. Can I also be on you? Consider it a gift from the terror of the elves. I freeze in place as the tall creature crosses his arms in front of his chest, refusing to take no for an answer. His lion-like tail swishes back and forth as if taunting me to attempt to refuse his kindness. This man was the Terror, the demigod leader of the city of Fides, and the chosen of the earth element. And he just paid for a ridiculously overpriced item of clothing. For me. Alright, yeah, okay, if he insists on buying us presents, I mean, who am I to say no? The intensity of his gaze lessened before he nodded towards the clothing on my body. Pretty things suit pretty people. Jeez. I love how each character has like their own different UI. Consider it a party favor. You're a guest of the Dread Festival, right? I nod and he gives me a brilliant grin. Oh, he's so cute. Then please, make yourself at home in our city. The words a million people would kill for this chance echo in my mind, and I find myself smiling back at the demigod. Thank you. It is my duty, and incidentally, my pleasure. Shut up! Jesus. He's gonna smack the table. Yeah, R is right. God. I find my cheeks heating a bit at his tone. I should be on my way. Of course. I'll be seeing you tonight then. Okay, sure. I pick up my old clothes and my pack before bidding Kupio and Terra the most dignified goodbye I could muster. Now, what did the way back to the embassy look like? I start retracing my steps but quickly find myself unable to deny the itch to put words on paper over my recent encounter. He boobily breasted away. Compared to the capital of the Ares Empire, the elven city of Omnis is beautiful but chaotic. The architecture I see as I walk the streets is awe-inspiring, but the structure of the city itself is incomprehensible. I wonder what the spatial architects were thinking when they planned this place. The urban design is amateurish when compared to the organized construction of our capital city. My thoughts then wander to the Terror of the Elves, to his warm smiles and his overly accommodating sentiments. Nobody had ever covered a bill for me purely out of kindness. I cannot but wonder what the price I'd have to pay for it in return would be. I frown and structure my thoughts on the demigod of Earth. My first impression of the Terror of Elves is that he seems to live in his own world. I never once spotted any of our 9 generals out shopping for clothes mere hours before an event as important as the Dread Festival. Then again, if the Terror is as rich as the legends say, I shouldn't be surprised that he throws money around at pompous stores with ridiculously inflated price tags. I feel my chest grow heavy with guilt over the words I put down. We've been taught to always show the strengths of our empire. Throwing mud at reputations of others in order to do so, however, has never been my favorite thing to do. I exhale, look up from my page and quill, needing a distraction from my treacherous thoughts. Ooh, this place is really pretty too. It comes quickly, as I do not recognize the street I'm walking on. Multitasking is not always as it seems. The marble and quartz are lost, instead replaced by simple one-floor stone buildings, decorated with all kinds of dried plants, bones, and black velvet curtains. The street seemed deserted, the air feeling oppressive. Unlike the other parts of town, soft lavender and green candles lay lit around the street, as though there is a heavy darkness there that dims all the other colors and needs to be warded off. Silence stretches over me in a way that has me glancing back at my shadow. I don't know why, but this place reminds me of some of the worst moments of my life. The loss of a friend in the yearly wars, an experience that changed me and left a void in my chest. It is difficult to express what the loss of a loved one feels like, but the wave of sadness hits me with such strength that I have to rub the tears from my eyes as I walk. I hate it. I hate the reality of a mortal. That life has a beginning and an end. How cruel is that? How cruel were the gods that made us like this? I take a deep breath and focus on the teachings of the Ares Empire. The way to fight back the demons that attempt to conquer you. I need to keep myself occupied and focus on the things at hand. I need to take everything step by step. Look for someone to guide you back. While the street I'm currently on is empty, there surely must be someone I can ask for directions. I walk around for 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Taking lefts and rights, making my way through neighborhoods that look lived in, yet don't spot a single person. Haven't I already been on this street? I feel as though I'm being watched. I find myself constantly glancing around at the vacant windows and empty street corners. A cold chill climbs up my back as I reach a few doors without windows or candles. Was this elven magic, or just all in my head? Was someone playing tricks on me? When I stop to readjust my pack, I feel something wet hit my forehead. The darkening skies above surprise me, and I barely have a moment to blink before I'm caught in a downpour. The rain is so heavy and cold that if I don't hide somewhere quick, I'm sure I'll be sick during tonight's banquet. Shit. At this rate, my notes will be ruined. I break into a run looking for shelter from the downpour. The only place I manage to find on such short notice is underneath the small staircase. I'm forced to squeeze in underneath, pulling my feet into my chest. I like the rain. I've always found it calming. The pitter-patter of raindrops against any surface that could easily put me to sleep. With a downpour like this, It seemed as if the sky itself was crying. For the first time in my life, I found the sky's unruliness almost unfair. By force of habit, I find myself closing my eyes and listening to the sound of raindrops as they hit the cement. I breathe in the petrichor and allow its familiar smell to calm me. Despite my feelings, I find my earlier unease evaporating, melting away with the minutes. This is so pretty. The writing is pretty, the backgrounds and the ambience is like gorgeous. I open my eyes to the sound of a bark and find a small puppy tilting its head at me. When I blink again, however, I find that I must have imagined it. Jesus fucking Christ! Guys, look at the eyes! See, I was considering romancing either Latimore or this one. Holy shit, I love him. Oh, I have a crush. I'm weak to people with multiple eyes that have like eye cord dripping out of them. Oh my god. Oh my god. Do you come here off? Do you perch on top of archways often looking down at me? There is no place I'd rather be right now. Not to be crass, but would you like your dick sucked? You know, asking for me? His 4 eyes are a startling green. Greener than the purest jadeite. I think I'm in love with this man. He looks like he can keep us safe in his arms. Yeah, I hear sclera's black. Somehow he sticks out from the gloom of the surrounding environment. Perhaps because of the lit white candle that gleams in the lantern he holds up towards me. He surveys me silently, unbothered by the rain falling from the sky. His gaze lingers a bit too long on my ears. Guys, look at him. I love whatever this is. The situation where he's got like the drips coming down here. Oh, so pretty. I want this man. Sorry, Latimore. I want this man. I want him so bad. Is he a drider or is he part drider? Because you know how I feel about driders. Sexually. Love the designs of like the teeth overlapping. A sound, like an exasperated scoff, escapes him before he moves his cape to one side. It takes me a moment to realize that he's offering to share. Come on, you don't have to tell me to come. I'm already there. I'm not sure how I managed to hear a voice so gentle above the downpour. Let's get you out of this rain. And into your bed? I shall refuse. Something about strangers and dangers. Fuck stranger danger. Fuck the stranger. However, this man and his calm, gentle presence reassured me of my safety in a way no one else ever had. Perhaps it was magic. And did it truly matter if I was bespelled? If I'd managed to get to the banquet in time, yeah, I'm about to have another banquet here, I need to go to the other one. With a nod, I move quickly from neath the cold staircase to under the unfamiliar man's cape. I am pleased to find that it is much warmer and larger than it looks. I hope something else is also warmer and larger than it looks, even though I haven't seen it yet. I assume you are the ambassador of the Ares Empire. Once again, I'm surprised I can hear him. Something of the sort. His gaze lingers on me for a moment too long, though he says nothing. He reaches his lantern forward and I gather that we should move. The streets are accumulating water at such a pace that the sewage system does not seem capable of handling it. At first, I do my best to avoid the gathering puddles and streams of water carrying away dust and grime, though the task is difficult and my feet should be soaked through the shoes and socks. I am surprised to find that I don't walk into the puddles. I walk over them, as though an invisible barrier has been created between myself and the cold water accumulating on the streets. When I glance back at the man leading me, I notice the way the rain bounces away from him. Ask him how he's keeping you dry. Are you Gojo Satoruing somehow? The cloak's enchanted. Oh, I never experienced the effect of a magic item before, and I can't help but be a little awestruck at the revelation that I was almost wearing one. They were pretty rare back in the Ares Empire. He tilts his head towards the sky as if attempting to gauge if it will cease raining soon, then sighs. I apologize. Once again, it takes me a moment to catch his voice. I find how easy it is to miss alarming. Are you apologizing for the rain? Yes, it appears Aqua chose the opportune time to throw a tantrum. I feel the clogs clicking away in my head. And does it rain just in Omnis, or all around Quil'an'Guillar when he's in a bad mood? That is entirely up to him. Do all elven aspects have the ability to affect the weather? I can feel his gaze resting on me for a brief period. No. Oh. At least not without the help of spell candles. I raise an eyebrow at the man as he guides us into a turn that leads us out of the basic rocky building district. What are spell candles? A few seconds pass by without an answer, and I wonder if the cloak almost seems to grow heavier around me. A way to preserve pure elemental magic. And the magic is released when the candle is burned. Correct. Is that why candles are strewn about the city? I spot the smallest of twitches at the corner of his mouth. Aren't you quite the astute student? Oh yes, I am. Praise me more. You wanna see how astute I can be? Whip it out. I find myself smiling back at him. Our kind light them whenever they require magic they do not naturally possess. The red candles to light the fires at home and warm a room. The blue candles to summon and control water. The effect to which anyone can use these candles depends on their magical ability, of course, but I think you get the gist of it. The curve of his lips softened his features, and for a split second, I find myself staring longer than is appropriate. How do the aspects impose control upon the candles then? The male beside me raises an eyebrow as the rain continues to avoid hitting his lithe features. The more I stare at him, the more I find myself at peace. His calm voice reaches me once more, and I find myself probably just as surprised at his response as he is at my question. Spell candles are a commodity we aim to make available for every household. If we applied any serious controls to them, then that would be like rationing the air your people breathe. I'm not sure I understand the comparison. Here we are. The male stopped suddenly and turned towards me, his tall frame towering over me as he lifted his lantern towards the entrance to the Eurasian embassy. Loud percussion, the whistle of a flute and a mandolin rang through the air, showing off that the festivities had begun. And I was late. I'm embarrassed to admit I was so focused on the intriguing man before me to notice we'd arrived. Thank you. No thank you is necessary, be assured. Ooh, we can hide the UI by pressing space. He motioned for me to go ahead with his free hand, so I just nodded, turned on my heel and walked into the embassy in a hurry. Wow, it's pretty in here. The music was much louder inside, accompanied by the smells of various sizzling meats and the bright light of hanging chandeliers. Water, earth and death elves moved around in wild circular dances, dressed in such finery that I found myself thankful that the terror had interfered on my behalf at the store earlier, though I spot him in the room. I find that he's engaged in conversation with some senators from our empire, full goblet in hand. A few paces away from him, my eyes met the infamous crimson hues of the general, who seems to have stopped whatever he was doing to size up my outfit. Irritation bubbles in my throat, and I find myself quickly pivoting towards the drinks table. He thinks so pretty because we matched him. A large wine fountain, adorned with lit silver candles, quickly catches my eye, and a polite elf pours me a goblet upon noticing my approach. I take the cup with a smile, but am momentarily distracted from my drinking. I hear a series of loud gasps echo through somewhere before a slick, tangible voice cuts through the music like a hot knife through butter. I told the pirate lord that if he's not willing to go to war for my love, he doesn't deserve me. And then I sank his ship to the bottom of the bay. A series of excited whispers and murmurs follow the ridiculous explanation, carrying the electric atmosphere that supports all forms of gossip mongering. Momentarily distracted, I can't help but search for whoever is the source of this ambience. Frankly, even if my sister and brother were on the marriage market, I doubt they'd be able to impress. Then again, feel free to bring it up with stepmother dearest. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to finally get a morsel of attention. My feet move automatically as if charmed by scandal, carried within every sentence of whoever is speaking. I find I am led into a section of the embassy floor transformed into a lounge by large chaises, silk curtains and burning incense. Many gorgeous elves are piled on top of the comfortable pillows, lazing around in eye-catching outfits. Yet when my eyes land on the males sprawled in the dead center of this crowd, I find myself suddenly flustered. Oh, so pretty. Oh, he's so gorgeous. Look at him. Oh, I love him. I love the aquatic features as well. Oh, so pretty. Oh, wow. Everything about this man makes me want to do double and triple takes. The long hair glistening in the candlelight as if wet, the bright pink makeup, the outfit that I'm sure would look unseemly on anyone else in such a formal environment. Whoever he is, he commands the space behind these curtains as though he owns it. And he might as well, considering the way the hungry gazes of his entourage follow each breath he takes. No, sweetheart, no matter how much money your father offers our family as a dowry, trust me, she won't marry you. He sounds so utterly bored with the topic that I almost believe he isn't reveling in the attention he's receiving. His large smile says otherwise. Everyone knows that marrying for love is far superior to marrying for money. His gaze landed on me and his smile widened. Wouldn't you agree? The pool of attention was dropped upon me so suddenly that I found myself desperate to get rid of it. Marriage for love is better. See, my darling, there is no market value one can name when it comes to the hand of another in eternal matrimony. That is, if love truly grips them both. I'll grip you with both my hands. A breathy chuckle escapes the beautiful man before me, his gaze still on me with such intensity that I actively have to remind myself not to fidget. Did his eyes just gleam? It seems this foreigner is already more intelligent in the matters of the heart than you are, Leopold. Yeah, he is a mermaid. Does that mean he's got two wieners? I feel myself wince as a fierce glare is directed by my way by the Leopold in question. Hey, don't glare at me, I didn't do shit. Perhaps they're also interested in matters of the flesh as well. If I was walking when I heard that comment directed my way, I'd have tripped. How entirely inappropriate. I am interested in the manners of the flesh, actually. Handlebars to hold on. Hopefully 2 wieners. His heterochromatic eyes slide over my form. The retort I plan never leaves my mouth. You're just my type. Oh, thank you. I'm so happy. Excuse me? His bold proclamation wipes the remark clean from memory, and I can only stare at him completely dumbfounded. My cheeks flush as he spreads 2 fingers in front of his lips. Feel free to stop by my room later. So bold. I love it. Oh, I highly doubt that would be appropriate. Aqua of the Elves. Uh-oh. My embarrassment quickly swept under the rug. The attention of the room instead drawn to the general who moved in front of me. His demeanor remains as cold as always. Ah, the Shadow Master. The beautiful man before me finally makes a move to stand in front of us. I love how all their noses are drawn. I had an inkling that the male before me had to be influential. But had I just been propositioned by the aspect of water? Yes. I want Latimore and the green-haired guy. My brain blanched as I pondered how to put that down in my journal. I've heard a lot about you. The Aqua did a quick circle around the general, eyeing him with unabashed curiosity. Are you gonna proposition him as like me when they have a really big nose and I want to have a good time, so I swipe his nose like a credit card? The man without a heart, was it? Care to dispel that rumor? Ignoring the bold flirtation of the demigod before him, the general's crimson eyes glance in my direction briefly. I ask that you refrain from distracting our balefire-mandated political journalist from doing her job. I find myself stiffening upon hearing the mention of the Ares Empire's grand capital. Aqua's attention slid over me again, just like how I hope I will slide over his face, lingering on the authorized notebook I was given to put my notes down. I make no promises. Oh my god, can we see the dress from the back? It's so hot. You. It's a festival, General. Relax. He waved an amphibious hand dismissively. In fact, he raised his voice in a way that carried his words around the room. I propose a toast. Another goblet of wine is pushed into my hand by a servant so quickly that I suspect the Aqua of the Elves has a habit of making toasts, though the room is buzzing with excitement. It is enough to hear a pin drop. Beside me, I notice the general giving Aqua a withering glare. To the Ares Empire, who stood behind us thousands of winters. He raised his silver goblet into the air. He's so slutty. May our festival once again nourish the millennium-old alliance between our 2 nations, so that we may stand together in the coming horrors anew in 8 months. Prost! I blink as the word is echoed around the room, and everyone erupts in cheers before drinking from their cups. Drink. I take a sip of the wine and I'm thrown off by the dry, slightly salty taste it carries. Wow, who came in my wine? I glance around the room to see if anyone shared my reaction, but it seems I'm alone in my confusion. The festivities around me have resumed in full force, with the swell of a flute leading most elves that were gathered around Aqua in an unfamiliar folk dance. They bounce around the room in couples, laughing and dragging the occasional senator into their steps. When do I get to bounce? On it! It's wild and lively, antithetical to the structured festivals we hold back at Balefire. It's an acquired taste. The wine, I mean, surf grape. They call it in Amor. A familiar voice comes from behind it, and as I turn, I come face to face with the giant frame of the Elves' Terror. Long time no see, princess. Woo! Getting cold, princess. Stop it. It is good to see you as well, Terra. Planning to take Aqua up on his offer. It takes me a second to clue into what he's asking. It seems word travels faster than the wine at the Elven capital. I will be doing my job. Thought so. A part of me wanted to ask him what he meant, considering that smile, but I find my attention occupied by Aqua. What if he joined me in Aqua? He led a complex folk dance with easy confidence, his long hair swaying behind him, a mesmerizing head of the revelry. Our stoic general followed through the motions behind him as though he'd done this many times before. He looks like he'd have more fun cleaning bird shit. I stifle a laugh behind a hand and glance up at the shrugging demigod. Am I wrong though? Agree with him or defend the general? I'll defend the general. The journey to Omnis has been long. It is possible the Shadow Master is simply tired. The Terror raises an eyebrow at me, and I can tell he sees right through my nonsense of a political excuse. His gaze shifts behind me, and I follow it to a lone figure leaning against the wall beside the embassy's entrance. Hello! My guide from earlier with his hood down. I'm startled to see a pair of long lupine ears shifting on top of his head. I love him. Mors Mortis, the aspect of death, the last demigod of the waking elves. I want him so bad. He's watching the dance unfold around the embassy floor, but seems to be restraining himself from joining it. Terra nudges me with his elbow. You can invite him to a dance, you know? I'm startled by the suggestion. I think I'm definitely going for Mors first. God, that man is just my type. I'm startled by the suggestion. You know the steps, don't you? I nod slowly. I wouldn't be allowed on this job if I didn't. What are you waiting for? I blink at Tara's words. Suddenly feeling encouraged to try something new. This could be a great feature to put into the journalistic piece after I get home. Pick Moors. My eyes shift back to the demigod of death, who stands near the front entrance of the embassy's hall, cup of wine in hand. He strays from the rest, enjoying his bubble of serene solitude as he instead observes the descending chaos, content to be exempt from it. Emboldened by the terror's words, I politely excuse myself from my time with the leader of the elven faith, and move to join Mors Mortis in his reclusive corner. His gaze shifts to me briefly, noting my approach, before returning to the wild dances happening around us. Shouting, hopping, twirling, jumping, kissing, touching and drinking. All things that I want to do with him, well, not the shouting. The Aqua has grabbed our general, leading him through the complicated steps of a local dance that he's keeping up with perfectly. These two should bang. The visible vexation on his face, however, makes me consider the existence of karma. Can I just have all four of them? I have 3 holes in 2 hands. I can't help but smile as I reach the demigod of death and lean on the wall beside him. You're not joining them? His eyes flick to me and then back to the craze up ahead. Dancing is not something that I've had much of a talent for. And yet you enjoy watching it. It is a verification of being alive. Beautiful in its simplicity and simultaneously its complexity. I tilt my head and turn my attention fully to the scene before me as it unfolds. The Mors Mortis of the elves was the oldest of the elven aspects. A frightening monster with sharp teeth and claws capable of plucking a person's soul right from their chest. Ooh, a monster. He was perhaps the most feared ally we had. A folk tale the parents told their kids when they didn't want to go to bed. The sleepless woven demigod who ate the naughty children when they wandered into dark forests at night. These men and women, politicians, are like the stars. They burn beautifully when they're far away, interesting to observe but not to encounter. His plain observation surprises me. And though I lack the reason to verbally or visibly agree with him, in a room where doing either would be treason, I feel that my silence tells him enough. The beat of the music continues and the cello swells with emotion as I watch the terror join into the dance, leading a long winding column of his own with a smile on his face. He is like the sun, a stark contrast to the school displeasure of our general and the mischievous expression of the Aqua. What about you? Why aren't you joining them? Actually, I wanted to dance with you. I came over because I wanted to dance with you. I know you said you prefer watching, but would you like to join me for a song nonetheless? The aspect of death stills and I find myself wondering if the undead demigod had to breathe in order to live. The eyes on his cheekbone dart to me. As if taking me in properly for the first time, I'll take him in properly. There's suspicion in there that I'm not used to receiving. The dance floor is a cacophony of egos and personalities right now. A meat grinder that I have no interest in entering. I'll grind his meat, but will you enter me? I school my features into neutrality as he lifts a hand to rub the space between his eyes. I see. I am sorry for bothering you with my request then. No, do not apologize. His tone grows hush. I can barely catch his next words over the music. Though I rarely interact with mortals, I understand attempts at kindness. Dancing is an activity for the living. The dead are only supposed to marvel from the sidelines. What weird rules? I know better than to question customs I do not understand though. A sudden surge of the beat turned my eyes to the center of the embassy's main hall, where the aspects of earth and water had clashed, both vying for the center of the dance floor. The general, his fingers were still intertwined with Aqua's, regarded the aspect of water as though he was seconds from killing him. The stumping of feet, clinking of cups, and roaming of hands. The smell of expensive perfumes met with that sizzling of meats cooked traditionally as kebab. At the same time, it reminded me of home, while also letting me experience something entirely different. It made me want to close my eyes, lean into beat like everyone else. As the chaos of the festivities raged around me, I turned once again to face Mors Mortis. A question on my lips, I watched as his eyes widened, as he pulled me to his side without warning as a stray glass of wine smashed into the wall where I just stood. Whoa! The owner, an earthen elf with a sandy skin tone, laughed drunkenly, perhaps after doing a few too many twirls in the current dance. Her eyes, the color of bright amethyst, turned to me, and what I assumed was going to be an apology turned into wide eyes, quivering lips, and a deep bow. She said something in Elvish, then turned on her heels and ran out of the embassy, opened doors into the night, leaving me dumbfounded. At least she was considerate to not disturb the rest of the guests by screaming. She says she apologizes for the glass. I turned to Mors Mortis, whose nonchalant tone was betrayed by the scowl of his lips. Thank you. Imagine being held by him. So good. It is of no consequence. Something like that is just so hot. I don't know what it is, but it's like, instead of saying, it's fine, he's like, it is of no consequence, and I'm like, God, you speak like Fancy. Makes me like so happy. Hang on. A series of merry cheers erupt from the center of the hall. The long song having come to an end, but I find myself uninterested in the winner of its superstitious competition. The man before me holds my gaze instead. I'm fascinated by what someone seemingly so gentle and done in seconds to summon forth such primal fear from his subject. But if Mors Mortis senses the millions of questions on my tongue, he can sense something else on my tongue. He ignores them, instead reaching towards me and tugging something out of my hair. His dark fingers pull away and I catch a sixth eye tattooed on the back of his hand. A bit of glass got on you. He shows me a small shard between his fingers. Something that wouldn't have happened had our balefire mandated journalists been doing their job recording the happenings rather than partaking in them. The general cuts into the conversation with a glare in my direction and gives me goosebumps. Jealous? I believe you and I have different definitions of the term partaking, General. Unlike me, Mors Mortis seems completely unaffected by the Shadow Master's presence. Your journalist was in fact doing their job very well. It is the fault of our people that she almost got injured. The general scoffed, his gaze shifting to me again. Eyes tracking what I could only assume was the glass shards in my hair. Any journalist serious about their job would already be resting. The aspect of death's gaze shifts to me, as if to gauge something, before he places a hand on his toned chest. His head dipped into a curt bow, a soft smile on his lips. Then may your rest be tranquil, and your spirit feel serene under Nosh's watchful gaze, Yinny. You ruined my date, Lattimore! Thank you, Natra. As he rises, I offer both men a small bright smile. If you'll excuse me, the general gives me a curt dismissive nod. Mors Mortis, on the other hand, seems to be looking past me. I take it as permission to leave. It is halfway out of the room that I realize I never actually had the chance to tell the aspect of death my name. I quickly reach my room. The inside is small but luxuriously furnished, showing off what I already knew, that the Ares Empire spared no expense for the diplomats. I find myself glaring at the unnecessary mahogany desk, the silk robe hanging from my dresses, the uncomfortable bed warmed by the red candle lit beside me, the redundant opulence of the ensuite bathroom with the heated floors and the scented soaps. I sigh as I sink into my bed, journal in hand. Pushing my annoyance aside, my thoughts drift, taking me through the day. So far, I find Omnis to be mysterious. Yes, I find myself sticking a bit longer to my descriptions of the small alleyways I lost myself in, the empty streets, the dark curtains, the simple stone buildings decorated with bones and dried herbs. I write about the sun and rain that fell and the kind elf with glowing lanterns that saved me from it. I pause, wondering if I should add the elf's actual identity to the work and decide to just leave the mystery as is. Let the Eurasians reading the featured article think of all elves as kind saviors, not just one of them. Next, I find myself focusing on the welcome festivities I've just been a part of. They were quite a special experience. The winters our eastern continent experiences are mere myths to the rest of the known world. They are harsh, filled with the horrors of body and mind. We'll lose too many good people to these wars every year. And yet with the Eurasian Embassy of Omnis, the evening before the Dread Festival, we are welcomed with open arms by our elven comrades in arms. We find hope in breaking bread and sharing wine. We smile, laugh, and choose to live on. Persist despite the abominations in our recent memories. It was the heartwarming sight of an alliance forged over a millennia of joint suffering. I find myself smiling when I think of Mors Mortis. The calm and wise Mors Mortis is the oldest waking elven aspect. As the demigod of death and the ruler of Spez, the city of hope, he is a walking oxymoron, both renowned and feared, with his own kind's capital city. He is the monster our parents told us about when we were young, the big bad wolf that ate the naughty kids. He who never sleeps and can pluck souls from bodies with a simple touch. He can give me a simple touch. There is, however, a certain unexpected place one can find when being near what they fear most. You can find out that the boogeyman is just a man. Perhaps the weeks of travel were finally getting to me. I put away my journal and try to get some rest. To survive in the Ares Empire, you need to love it, or you need to be very good at pretending to do so. The delegation was ready to depart the Central Plaza at 7:30 AM sharp. Systemized like apothecary bottles, not a single soul dared to be late under the general scrutiny. As if yesterday's chaotic revelry was a dream that we'd all conjured up in our sleep, but the outfit on my body was proof enough, considering I had nothing else decent to wear. The elven diplomats were meant to escort us to the location of the Dread Festival's opening ceremony, arrived at exactly 7:35. The Shadow Master greeted them, and after finishing the steaming contents of his cup, bid they lead the way. I soon found myself uncertain as to why all this posturing was necessary. The Central Plaza of Omnis is exactly a 3-minute walk away from the embassy. Though we are early to the ceremony, the open space is packed with elves of various elemental inclinations and ages. 7 large stone coffins held together with heavy locks and star mail chains lay arranged in a neat line at the heart of the square. A giant cauldron of bubbling wax levitates peacefully above each one, and I quickly spot the 7 lit candles held together by Mors Mortis, though Terra and Aqua are nowhere to be found. The aspect of death seems to personally be attending to the festival's preparation. He appears calm as he runs his fingers over the flames of the braziers, heating the cauldrons, earning excited whispers from the gathered elves and senators. I find myself wondering if it hurts or if he's touched fire so many times he's grown numb to it. For a second his eyes meet mine across the field, as our delegation steps forward to our designated area. Smile at him. A surprise skips over his features like a pebble before sinking underneath the perfectly constructed political smile he'd offer our delegation. Or so I expected. Instead, his expression remains the same as he offers us a cool, calculated bow. Welcome, esteemed General and the delegates of the Ares Empire, to this year's Dread Festival opening. Thank you, Aspect of Death, for hosting us again this year. The Shadow Master returns the sentiment with a curt bow of his own. What a lukewarm exchange. I'm not exactly sure what happened between these two, but I do not have time to dwell on it. For Aqua and Terra's arrival breaks the tension and turns it into chaos. It's as if, wherever these two appear, the location turns into a stage set for a spectacle. A stark contrast to the elves' indifference towards Mors Mortis and quiet curiosity about the general. Oh my god, look at them. I find my gaze lingering on Mors Mortis. Look at how pretty they are. The Aspect of Death stood motionless beside our delegation as he waited for his compatriots to join us. His side profile reminded me of a statue, his life form carved from decades of decisions. Only his eyes gave away signs of life. His gaze shifted through the crowd, landing on his fellow aspects, before he blinked in action so natural that looked foreign on him, as though he did it for the benefit of living around him. Esteemed guests of the Empire, allow us once again to welcome you into our lands as we commemorate the end of another winter. Terra moved to stand beside the now quiet Mors Mortis. There is no greater honor for us and our people to call you and yours by the term allies. For every time we've been called, you have answered, and whenever you've been in need, we've delivered. It is through good that we stave off evil, through your gods and ours. Listening to the eloquence of the Aspect of Earth, I am quickly reminded that as the leader of the Elven City of Faith, Terra also holds a title of head of all elfic religions. Aqua speaks next, a hand on his heart. Our bond has lasted for a millennia, a marriage pact against darkness. This commitment immortalized and we seal away the 7 scions will continue to hold again today. On this first day of the Dread Festival, we bow once again to keep them at bay. His voice pulls me towards him like a sailor to a siren, but it is Mors Mortis' tone that brings me back, that makes me stop and listen. From flesh to wax, from wax to life. Every year the eternal war takes from us those we hold dear, and with what is left of them we seal away chaos, anger, loneliness, sorrow, hunger and plague, and take a breath until next winter. For it is through faith that we hold the lines, through love that we stand united, and through hope that we keep on fighting. Let those we love shield us once more from the dangers we've forgotten. Breathe in and take your time to pray. Terra's command echoes through the air, rendering the thousands of elves gathered on the knees. As per the ritual, our delegation is the first to walk up to the braziers of bubbling wax and silently thank those who gave their lives for ours. The general goes first, murmuring thank yous in both our language and that of the elves. Though I can't see his face, I find his tone to be gentler than any I'd heard from him before. I go last from our delegation. I think about those I've lost over the years to this war. A deep pain grips me. I know it stems from the emptiness of what was once, but is now no more. As I reach the first cauldron, I thank the people and elves who gave their lives for peace in both languages. I move on to the next cauldron and do the same, and the next, and the next, and the next. It is considered a great honor to be able to come this close to the dead again. Once our delegation has finished paying our respects, the elven aspects follow. The 3 move in perfect tandem. By the time Mors Mortis is finished, the rest of the elven population omnis is already in silent tears. Poor. Mors Mortis orders after a moment of silence. The 7 cauldrons obey Mors Mortis' command, slowly moving to tip over. Wax begins hitting the coffins one by one, resealing them under the watchful eyes of the elven aspects, their people in our delegation. Oh no, what's happening? Words shatter through the silence. I barely have enough time to process the familiar voice before the ground underneath my feet gives. For a second I think I'm blind. The world has turned pitch black. I think I smell something burning. Then daylight breaks through, bringing back my sense of sight. My knees are bleeding. I blink as I try and get my bearings, but it's as though sound has ceased to function. I make out some of the senators lay beside me, cowering. Stay low for now. Yeah, we should stay low for now so we don't die. I knew shit was gonna hit the fan. The general is kneeling beside me, a knife in his hand. His eyes wander around our delegation, coolly checking for everyone's presence and safety. At least until a shout cuts apart my uncertainty with a new horrifying discovery. The goddess of chaos has escaped. My eyes shoot in the direction of the pale marble coffin. The last one to be sealed, now empty. Oh no! I hear murmurs and whispers from the gathered elven crowds. The words are undecipherable until the general's crimson gaze sweeps over the onlookers, with what can only be described with as wild fury. They finally decide to conquer us too. Betrayers! Scoundrels! My blood chills. As I realize that the only possible culprits could be those close enough to the cauldrons, the realization seems to dawn upon the aspects at the same time. Because all three of them turned to face us. I didn't do it! The word "seize them" suddenly sound like a phrase from a banned horror novel. The elven crowds are dispersed and told to return to their homes under curfew. Meanwhile, we are roughly pulled to a standing position in front of the aspects. While Terra and Aqua's expressions are unreadable, Mors Mortis looks dangerously calm. General, give us one reason why we mustn't lynch your delegation and send you back to the Emperor to announce the dissolution of our alliance. You have no proof. I find this man's ability to remain an egotistical bastard even when standing before three demigods almost attractive. Almost. It's very attractive. Did nobody else stand close enough to the braziers in order to tamper with them? The generals fall silent and I realize exactly what he's saying. I see Mors Mortis' expression turns murderous as he reaches the same conclusion. My thoughts suddenly dim as a primal existential fear of death sinks its claws into my back. How dare! Let's hold an investigation then. Aqua's smile is nonchalant, but something in his tone gives me pause. Mors Mortis' eyes narrow on the demigod of water. Everyone present is a suspect. I don't know why the three unitary demigods suddenly look so divided. Terra, much to my surprise, is frowning, his tail flicking around, his arms crossed in front of his chest. Very well. Mors Mortis' four jade eyes wander between the members of our delegation and the surrounding guards before landing on the general. Name your investigator, Shadow Master. You get one. And only one. Yinny. What? I jump to my feet as all eyes turn on me. I'll do it. I catch a glimmer in Terra's gaze, as none of the aspects argue the general's choice. Aqua's smile widens, and I find myself looking away, needing to escape all this attention. The festival lasts 7 days. This is how long you have to get your truth. The unspoken, if you fail, remains a silent implication that hangs over my head like a guillotine for the next week. Day 1. I return to my room and find that my fingers are gripping my journal so hard that they're shaking. I have to get it together, desperately. I can sense how overwhelmed I am with fear. Had it been winter, I likely would have already turned into some mindless ghoul and fallen prey to the sword of a soldier. I take in a deep breath and exhale. I remember these simple motions several times until my brain has enough oxygen to function again as it should. Who do I investigate? Mors Mortis. Yeah, because we want to hang out with him. My head feels like it's swimming as I attempt to piece everything together. Nothing makes sense. There is still too much information I lack, and too little time I have to figure this out. I feel restless. The squeezing of my stomach from nerves doubled by the rapidly growing hunger for something more serious than a cup of tea. It forces me out of my chair, into my door. And with the amount of stress I'm under, if I don't eat anything I might fall sick, then I'd really have doomed us all. It forces me out of my chair and then to my door. With the amount of stress I'm under, if I don't eat anything I might fall sick, then I'd have really doomed us all. A light meal would have to suffice. Pulling the door open, I find myself staring back at 2 pairs of surprised green eyes. The aspect of death. One dark hand pulled into a fist seems to have just been about to knock. Instead, he clears his throat and hides his hand back under his long cloak. I've come at a bad time. I mean, you could never come at a bad time if you know what I mean. He steps back, serene, entirely different from the previous burning display of anger at the city square. It's alright, Natura. I was about to step out for lunch. I see. Then I won't keep you with my presence. That won't work for me. I desperately need answers. Would you like to join me for lunch? Actually, if it isn't entirely too bold of an invitation, considering the difference in our stations, you could join me. This way we won't waste time. You could be the lunch, sir. Just spread it. 4 green eyes blink at me, then scan me from top to bottom with distrust. For lunch. Whatever he sees in my following little nod seems to melt away his suspicions, replacing them with curiosity instead. He motions for me to walk ahead and I do just that. A polite silence blanketing the space between us as we make our way into the embassy's canteen. It's a small but well-decorated place with 3 rotating tables covered in banquet-style dishes for self-service. One tall window allows the daylight to enter and envelop the whole room. When I move to sit into one of the comfortable wooden chairs, Mors Mortis is quick to pull it out from behind me, surprising me as he pushes it underneath me after. Would you be comfortable with having me sit beside you? Or would you prefer to have me seat across? The question puzzles me, as I catch Mors Mortis once again scanning my face, searching for who knows what as I shrug. Sit wherever, Natura. We are in your city. And in your embassy, investigator. Do not forget that. I blink as he takes a seat beside me and lowers his hood. The eyes on his cheekbones scan through the dishes on display. Ask away. So I do just that. Did you notice anything unusual happening in the hours before the incident? Hours is a very broad amount of time. But yes, many things caught my attention. For one, my invisibility cloak has disappeared. The joke is on my tongue, but I resist interrupting, stamping it down like any other intrusive thought. I couldn't complete my afternoon patrol yesterday because I was saving a soul in distress from sun and rain. I can feel his eyes linger pointedly on me as I write that down. And the dead, their immortal souls were restless. He frowns as he is twitching. Even still, their bones seek to leave the graves through their flesh, has been cleaved and turned to wax. How can you tell? I can see them, hear them, feel them, talk to them. His gaze shifts briefly to something above my shoulder, and I follow his gaze but spot nothing. A sigh escapes him before his gaze turns to the table and the food before me. But I'm not sure if I have the stomach for anything after that conversation. I must, however, persevere. When did your invisibility cloak disappear? Yesterday after I left my house. What time was that around? I tend to lose track of time. It was still dark outside, so it was in the early hours of morn. Somewhere around 5 AM based on Nosh's path through the sky. And when did you return to find it missing? 10 PM. A quarter hour before that, perhaps. That's a large gap of time. I know where I placed it when we returned from winter and it isn't there. Where do you usually place it? On the hanger beside the antidote rack. You can stop by when you have time and I'll show you what I mean. You want me to stop by your house? I'm a sheep in wolf's clothing investigator. My compatriots will confirm if you only ask them. You can bring someone with you if you're not comfortable, of course. I nod slowly, noting the opportunity in my journal. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? The aspect of death's expression turns unreadable. His eyes flicker away. A shadow falls across his face and I know that he's thought this already. For some reason, however, he refuses to share. His silence lasts long enough that I'm inclined to write down refuses to respond in my journal. I pick up my chopsticks and take a quick couple of bites of the pickled carrots, as I consider how to follow up on the lack of reply. Do the spirits know who is behind the freed goddess? They are restless. They speculate just like us. The voices have been so many that it is not only difficult to tune them out, but also impossible to make out anything any of them are saying unless I implicitly concentrate. I need more time to speak with the city's roaming spirits, but when I have an answer, I will let you know. Was the ritual tampered with? Yes. How? Mors Mortis' eyes fall on the empty plate in front of me. There are runic configurations on the inside of the cauldron. I blink in surprise. Runes are an ancient symbol imbued with magic, most commonly used for spellcasting. But runic is a dead language. Is anything truly dead if memory of it still lingers? Oh, what a sentence. The aspect of death rotates the traditional table, such that the vegetable dishes face us rather than the meat-centric ones. Either this man is vegetarian, or he has astounding insight into those around him. I thank him and quietly pass some pickled vegetables onto my plate, pondering his last words. When I look back at him, I notice his ears have sharpened, and his bustling tail has frozen in place as if listening to something I can't hear. The eyes on his cheekbone have shifted their attention elsewhere. His features soften after a split second and he turns his full focus back to me. Incessant spirits. Can't blame the dead for wanting to be heard. Doesn't that get tiring? Mors Mortis knits his brows together, as if the thought was entirely foreign to him. It sounds like you have very little peace, because you not only have to deal with the living but with the dead as well. His tail switches behind him from left to right, as he seemed to ponder my words. The living only concern me when they're dying or injured. I recall the way he stood alone at the welcoming banquet a few evenings ago, unbothered by the lack of acknowledgement of his presence. Why is that? Because hope is the only thing more compelling than fear. I find myself once again uncertain about how to take his words, suddenly struck by the dichotomy of the life he lives, the aspect of death, who also rules over Spes, elven city of hope. The infamous monster from horror stories whispered under the cover of the night. At the Ares Empire was the quiet, gentle man before me. I shall leave you to the pleasures within the plates. I barely had a moment to blink as the aspect of death rose from his chair and put his hood back on. His cloak carried behind him a scent of fallen autumn leaves and burning candles. He hadn't a bite or sip as he made his way to the door. His eyes flickered once again to me, and then behind me. Something of a smile crossed his lips. Remember, be a rat, not a lamb. The less meat on the bones, the less satisfying the prey. He closes the door behind him with a soft click, and again. I can't tell if he's trying to piss me off or is he genuinely attempting to be helpful. Who do I investigate? Aqua. I wasn't sure if it was because Mors Mortis had called everyone else present a suspect, but I found myself diligently studying Aqua as he sat on a chair in front of my work desk. A very ornate chair that hadn't been there until right before I asked for the aspect of water to stop by for questioning. It was carved of some expensive wood, packed with comfortable cushions and sparkled with pearls of various colors and sizes. A perfect seat for the man who lounged on top of it as if he was king of the world. Legs crossed, chin propped up on one hand, he offered me a lazy smile that made something in my chest twist. He was perhaps the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. It was annoying to no end. Should I summon a painter? You seem so fond of staring. My cheeks flushed and I cleared my throat. Glancing down at my journal, I found it logical I started off by asking him the following questions. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? Akko raises an eyebrow at my question. If I was thrown in at the deep end, I wouldn't go about attracting the attention of sharks. Are you threatening me? He laughed as though I'd asked something terribly amusing. His different colored eyes glittered like sea glass. You Eurasians are always looking for a reason for an argument or a fight. Do you know a lot of Eurasians? A few. And that's enough to draw up such conclusions. Perhaps. I do my best not to roll my eyes. Let me rephrase. Do you know of anyone who might benefit from freeing a dangerous goddess from her 2,000-year slumber? Excluding our enemies? I grit my teeth at his nonchalant yawn. I haven't sensed any dangerous emotions from anyone if that's what you're asking me. I find myself uncertain of what to put down on paper in front of me. I'm sorry, you can sense emotions. My fellow naturals call it empathy. Partially comes with the territory of holding the elven throne in the city of Amor. So you get powers from ruling a city. In return for what? Spreading peace and harmony and love, of course. Maybe. You need me to help you explore that too at some point. Clearly you need it more than anyone else around the festival. What the hell? Is he calling me unfucked? I roll my eyes as my cheeks flush at his blatant proposition. Why were you late on the morning of the incident? Aqua scoffed at my question. I am late only if you go by the words of Mors Mortis. If anyone else had organized the Dread Festival this year, they wouldn't have said a word. Others can organize the festival. Of course. There's a rotating duty between all aspects. It just so happened that this year the pleasure fell on Mors Mortis' shoulders. Was there anything different between how Mors Mortis organized this year's festival compared to the previous ones? I had no clue. I was delegated to the task of organizing your arrival banquet, so I was fully focused on that. No wonder it was so lavish and chaotic. Did you notice anything unusual happening in the hours before the incident? Not really. I was too busy sleeping off a hangover. After a long night of enjoying the revelry that I helped your embassy throw. His voice dipped into a softer, more melodic tone. It truly was a shame that you couldn't stay. How long into the night did the revelry continue? I don't know. I didn't stay for the whole thing. And why not? I found a better use of my time. Oh, he was bang-a-langin'. His tone dipped into something softer, and his eyes attained that pure raw heat that could only mean one thing. I nodded, my cheeks no doubt as bright as his eyeshadow. That was all very helpful. Thank you. Did you find that? I appreciate the attempt at lengthening our time together, investigator. But I am a busy man. I find myself gaping at him. I wasn't. The grin he gives me as he makes to get up is downright infuriating. I should have a free time slot for you after 5 hours if you wish to continue your disquisition. You can't just... But he can. And he proves that point by making his way out the door to my small room before I can finish my sentence. And I have the infuriating need to throw my journal at the door as I'm looking down at my notes from the first 2 sessions, churning the new information in my brain. The door to my room swings open with such violence that I reach for the dagger underneath the desk. For a second, the shadows grow deeper and darker, and I wonder if they moved in on their own before the general marches into my room unannounced. With 4 quick strides of his long legs, he reaches my desk. His tall form blocking out the rays of sun from the nearby window like a storm cloud. A thick stack of papers is deposited unceremoniously onto my desk, and it takes everything within me not to wince as I notice the smudges of various shades of red and brown along with the inky scroll upon them. I put the dagger back in its desk sheath and make to get up and bow, but he raises a hand to stop me. I will not stay. I've taken up the task of personally questioning everyone from our delegation who prayed in front of the wax this morning. I felt the blood drain from my face as my eyes flipped between him and the stack of papers before me. I clear my throat to help find my voice. Did you find anything of note? His eyes narrow with unfiltered annoyance. No. He turns around, heading for the door just as abruptly as he entered through it, each step increasing the anxiety settling on my shoulders. Question him. Shadow Master, with all due respect, I would also like to ask you a few questions. My breathing halts the moment his footsteps do. I find myself to count to 10, to move, to show signs of life as he levels me with one of his famous glares and the shadows in the room darken. Consider these 10 minutes of my time charity for a lost cause. My breathing resumes with a huff and I'm quickly reminded of my dislike for the disrespect of the ruling generals of Ares. Annoyance washes over my fear, steadying me as I flip open a new page on my journal. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? The seals placed upon the children of evil are of ancient complicated magic. This rules all mortal simpletons from our delegation out of the list of culprits at the very least. I purse my lips, ignoring the stab this arsehole just lightly made at my intelligence as he keeps talking. Whether it's a conscious betrayal or a hand guided by the anger of a god, those who would know how to unseal a tomb bound by a millennium-old spell would likely be counted on the fingers of one hand. My hand freezes midair. The unspoken words linger between us for a few moments, before I finally press my quill to the pages of the journal again. seemingly snapping the general from his continued unspoken thoughts. His gaze flits to me, and then to the space around me before he crosses his arms over his chest. His lips set into a firm line, as if he knows that what I'll ask him before I even open my mouth. You intend to question the gods? The Terra and his high priests and the priestesses can communicate with the original gods in bits and pieces. They know their intention, their views, and see the shifts of the divine web before any mortal can. You think the Terra knew this would happen? He scoffs, one foot tapping impatiently against the wooden floor. If he is as powerful as he says he is, then he should be aware most fates are woven by the fingers of the gods. What do you think was the aim of this, whoever is responsible for the incident? This winter bore the greatest losses ever seen by this long-enduring alliance. Some would blame the elven leadership for the grave numbers, others might blame us. Do you think someone is trying to stage a power coup? The Shadow Master shrugs, and the action is human enough that I find myself staring. Whoever they are, only the gods can save them now. And they better pray hard, because the chance of survival after that sorry stunt is 0. His eyes glitter like sharp ruby gems, and I recognize those words to be not a belief, but a promise. Been to the Dread Festival before. Did you notice anything different in its setup this time around? The elves knew Aqua through the welcoming party yesterday night. He reeks of trouble. I raised my eyebrow at the observation as I scribbled the pointless answer down. Perhaps the Shadow Master used salty wine and double and trouble interchangeably. I wouldn't be surprised considering the stick up his ass. Could you elaborate? He's cocky and impulsive, an attention seeker with 0 regard for the consequences of his actions. Could it be that he was still bothered by the way the Aqua flirted with him in front of everyone? I hope if we don't get together with either Latimer or Aqua, then Latimer and Aqua get together. I push the thought down, ignoring the urge to smirk. The current Aqua has been present and active for the 2 previous Dread Festivals as well, but no incident occurred then. I point out, my tone professional. Controlled, earning me a scowl from the man before me. The Shadow Master opens his mouth, then seems to think better of what he wants to say and closes it, glancing pointedly at the clock on my desk instead. I do my best to ignore the way this annoys me. The complex web of information only seems to grow thicker and more convoluted. I hate to admit it, but the journal has given me a lot to think about in the last minutes. My brain is running at 8 million miles per hour as I flip between the pages of information, picking through the bits and pieces I find important. Whatever question I want to ask next, however, doesn't see the page I hear as his boots begin to move towards the door. I'll thank him, I'll be nice. I glance up from my papers as he pulls the door open. Thank you for your time, General. His gaze flickers in my direction briefly as he pauses in the entryway. Do make an effort not to get yourself killed, Investigator. Not everyone loves obnoxious buttons meddling around in their business. He steps out and shuts the door behind him, leaving me staring indignantly at the space he just left. My earlier bout of fear completely forgotten, now replaced with a warm boiling rage slithering underneath my chest. If I wasn't in an embassy building, I would scream. F***ing ass. I mean, I'll fuck his ass. Anyway, Sila, Pierre, and Lovak, give me strength. Who do I investigate? There's only Tara left. I tap my pen against the desk as I try to structure a plan. I'm a political journalist, not a detective. I should be reporting on the strong relationship between the Ares Empire and Quil'an'Guillar. I should be watching the general gallivanting alongside his aspects, drinking wine and smiling politely and just writing. Instead, I somehow find myself spearheading an investigation that could not only spark a war between 2 nations but also result in the end of my life. I can feel the nerves in my stomach like worms eating me from the inside out. I should have skipped breakfast, and at this rate, I might skip dinner. You alright? You look like you want to murder your journal, which I do not recommend, by the way. It looks like a nice journal. Hi. I find myself torn from my thoughts by a voice I'm quickly growing accustomed with. Its owner leans against the open doorway, strong arms crossed in front of his chest. I knocked several times but he didn't respond, so I let myself in. It took me a moment to realize that he was waiting for me to respond to his earlier inquiry. Not really. He hums, his eyes study me briefly. His gaze was piercing, as though he could see through every little lie. Please, feel free to take a seat. I motioned to the chair in front of my desk, and watched Terran's gaze flick briefly to it before moving back to me with a raised eyebrow. I don't mean to be disrespectful to your embassy's choice of furniture in saying this, but if I were to put my full weight onto that seat, I fear it won't hold another person ever again. Oh, so he's like heavy. I mean, we could tell. And while I have no issues paying for those damages, a giggle escapes me as I process his words, imagining the present ambassadors rushing over to apologize to the Elves Terra for their inadequate seating arrangement sounded like something of a local comedy skit. Alright then. Onto the topic at hand. Did you notice anything unusual happening in the hours before the incident? No, I was preoccupied. I hope he crushes us like a can. I hope like by the time he's done with us, we look like a slinky. No, I was preoccupied. Any particular reason? He chuckles, and the sound inexplicably takes the load off my shoulders. Some demigod enchantment, perhaps. I was releasing some pent-up energy. Through exercise. With Aqua. Oh, you two were bag-a-legged. Wow. What? Why do I not get to see these things? It takes great effort for me to keep my pen moving against the paper. but the writing turns into an unintelligible scrawl as his words sink in. I sure hope he sinks in me too. His expression is proof enough that he isn't teasing me. His lips are set into a firm line, his muscular arms crossed in front of his chest. After a few moments when I'm certain my voice and expression are schooled, I continue that line of questioning. And is this a common occurrence? How long were you together for that evening? Until morning. Could you give me the exact hours? His tail twitches from behind him, his eyes flickering away from me as he attempts to recall the information I need. I made sure to stay at the embassy as long as it was polite. Which was? Your general vanished at around 3 a.m. I followed his lead. I nod my head, a frown on my lips at the mention of my strict superior. Aqua left with you. He nods and I unwittingly find myself following the movements of his short braids over his chest. And you were with Aqua until you arrived at the scene of the crime. Terra cocks an amused eyebrow at my choice of terminology. For the most part, investigator. I give him a look that demands further clarification. We separated for a shower and a change of clothes at around 6 a.m. I put that down word for word and move on with my other queries. Why were you late on the morning of the incident? Some elven business came up, right before the beginning of the festival. When you live as long as I do, investigator, you come to realize that there are two kinds of business. There's the business you can put off, and the business you can't. Usually, if you don't handle the first, it becomes the second. I try not to make that mistake. That's very organized of you. I find myself smiling at his explanation. The compliment comes out accidentally and it earns me a bright grin. Thank you. His tone softens slightly, a low warm rumble compared to his usual demanding voice. I almost find it difficult to focus on the work at hand. Can you tell me any more about the elven business that made you late? While the smile on the Earth aspect's face doesn't shift, his tail bristles. I see enough small cats to know what that means. No. Alarm bells go off in my head at the sudden shift in aura. The word rings between us in a cool, steely tone. I've hit a wall with this line of questioning. But, if he doesn't tell us, then it's just, suspicion. I'm still getting driven insane by like this specific stripe of paint in between his two abs right here. Or perhaps I realize that it's simply the best that I don't push it for now. Alright, my apologies. Then move on to another question quickly. Who do you think is responsible for the incident? Natera's eyes narrow at my question, his lips pursing into a scowl. Whoever they are, they couldn't have escaped far. I put Omnis into lockdown, no one can leave or enter. That wasn't my question. His eyes, like molten gold, slid onto me. And for a split second, I could imagine what it was like to be this man's enemy, to stand against a man who could move a mountain, literally. Someone or something that wishes to weaken us. To drive fear into the hearts of our people. And when I find them, I will tear them to pieces with my bare hands. And let them rot on the altar of celebration until the crows have picked the meat clean off their remains. And the bear rats have dissolved the bones with their shit. It takes me a moment to close my mouth and remember to write this down. Silence stretches out between us. The sound of ink on paper before I look up at the demigod before me, another question in mind. Can a lockdown hold a child of evil? The goddess of chaos, Vavare, has already proven her domain through escaping her seal. The way we can balance chaos is through order. I do that best. You think that you'd starve her off her corruption by simply making your people follow your demands? Curfew, increased security, tracking spells. And if there's anyone who can catch a source of havoc and neutralize it, then that will be me. Cocky, I simply have faith in myself. He picks a puff of who knows what off his braces, examining it unceremoniously before flicking it into the small empty bin beside my door. Is that draconic leather? A gift from your Mercutio after I ripped the Ignis's arm off a few years ago. The wound lessened the burden on your northern borders significantly, or so I've been told. Mercutio, the Aegis of the Eris Empire, the strongest male dragon. He ruled his territory of the Eastern Dragon Fang with an iron fist. His name usually inspires fear and awe within me. I didn't recognize his feelings stirring now. The Terra's easygoing first-name basis approach had shocked me into stupor. A knock sounds on the door, breaking us away from our session. The Terra's eyes move from the door to me, his lips pursed as he steps away from it. For a man so famous for control, he sure had no problem giving it away. I half expected him to answer before I blinked. Come in. The door creaks open and I find myself looking at a handsome, lithe, silver-haired elf who offers the Terra a low bow. Allura, you were needed in the square to help set up the fire dancing festival, Natura? Of course, I will be right there. Though I am annoyed by the interruption, I nod my head when Terra turns his gaze to me. I will see you at the fire dancing then, investigator. Do you have appropriate clothes for the event? I find myself caught off guard by the question. I'll have some sent to your room before tonight then. I always buying strangers whole new wardrobes. Usually, only those that last nicely. His grin stirs in me something fierce. Natura, I'm coming, Allura. Oh, and that's the end of the demo. God, that was so good and so pretty. I'm filming my little review a day later because I didn't film it after I streamed this game, but Spellcanner was incredible. I really like how much lore and world building went into this. You can kind of tell that like each different location has like a significance and ties into the main story. And I feel like they reflected the world building in the backgrounds and just the overall feel of the game very well, despite it being such a short demo, and I adored it. Each of the love interests are incredibly distinct, and I love their personalities. Aqua, Terra, Mos Mortis, and Latimo, they're all very different. Latimo was originally my favorite because I do love my Kuderes, so like the silent standoffish type. However, Mos Mortis, as soon as I saw that he had four eyes, I was like, oh shit, that one, that man right there, that is for me. I think I've mentioned this so many times, but whenever something is lore rich, I just get so lost in the universe. And I find it an absolute privilege to just experience worlds that other people have weaved together. I think the demo did an amazing job of showing the culture in the city and how different people interact with one another, what's important, and also gave hints as to what was different back in your character's homeland as well. And I thought that was gorgeously well done, and I really loved it. The art itself, absolutely brilliant. The avatar style, I appreciate art styles that have like that kind of cel shaded vibe, but also with that kind of like the black work in the shadows, like the solid black color. That is like one of my favorite things. I also thought the backgrounds were absolutely gorgeous. The design and direction on all of them is so pretty to look at, and just from looking at the pieces in the background itself, you can piece together almost like your own story and a lot of the culture that is in the place that you're currently staying at. And I think that is wonderful background design when you can sort of tell what is going on and what is the significance of this place and why it's important, and you can glean details from the background alone. Like it's not just a room, there's like its own story to tell from each like different scene. That was something I really appreciated. I genuinely cannot wait to see more. But thank you so much for playing this with me. I hope you guys had a lovely time as well. If you guys did like this, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part. Definitely jump onto Steam and check out the demo for Spell Candle and support the developers as well. And also if you'd like to support my channel, my Patreon is in the description box below. Supporting is not mandatory, just very, very appreciated. But thank you so much again, and until next time, take care.